Hello everyone, and in today's video we'll be looking at 5 different mistakes that fragrance people usually make, especially if you're getting into fragrances for the first time. These are 5 mistakes that, you may come across, and I'm just making this video to give you a fair warning that, you may come across this mistake or you may do this without knowing. So I'm just here to help you guys make less mistakes and also have better purchases. Number one is a lot of people blind buy fragrances, and this could be, a mistake for some, or it could be not a mistake for some because they're like, well, it's my decision. But instead of blind buying, like totally blind buying without even knowing anything about the fragrance, I would recommend maybe going on fragrantica.com or parfumo.com or even basenotes.com, just other community-based, or even go on Facebook groups and just ask, like, what do you guys think of this fragrance? Or if you're on Fragrantica, search the fragrance up, get to know the notes, get to know how long it lasts, read the reviews. Sometimes the reviews are, more biased towards the fragrance or the opposite. But sometimes at the same time, you can find really good reviews from people, especially if they've always posted reviews, that you can possibly trust them. So at least then you have a greater idea of what fragrance you're going to get rather than just, seeing it on a YouTube video and being like, all right, I want to get that one. Because sometimes a YouTube review isn't enough. One thing that absolutely sucks is when you get the fragrance in, you give it that first smell, and you're like, I don't really like it. And relating to that, point 2 is something that I honestly used to do, and I kind of regret it now. But sometimes if you don't like a fragrance the first time you get it, let it sit, let it mature, store it in a dark and cool, temperature regulated place, a place that, the temperature isn't going to go up and down so much. If the temperature remains consistent at that place, or, just store it in a drawer or a cupboard or whatever, but just leave it there. If you don't like it, leave it there. Come back to it maybe in a month, maybe in a few months. Just, leave it, see if it matures, and your nose might mature too if you're also using other fragrances. There's been numerous times where I had a fragrance that I barely used, and then I came back to it and I was like, wow, like this smells really good now. I can't believe I never used it. And then I start using it again. But, just let your nose mature, let the fragrance mature, because, fragrances mature like fine wine sometimes. So my advice to you is sometimes you gotta give the fragrance a second chance. Number 3 is that people don't buy from discounters. I don't understand why. I know that there's, some trust issues with discounters, but if you really don't care about the money, then, go ahead and buy it straight from the retailer or from, different retail stores like, Sephora, Macy's, other ones, like, I don't know other ones, but those are the 2 that come to mind. But I don't know why. Just save some money, spend less, buy it from a discounted website, and a few discounted websites are really trustworthy that I've had no problems with have been fragrancebuy.ca. They come from Canada, so if you're shipping them to the US, there's going to be a little fee in terms of shipping, obviously, but if you buy 5 items or more, you can get the shipping off. And also, you might get a little extra tax, but it saves you still way more than buying it straight for the retail price. Another website or another discounter that I recommend is fragrancenet.com. I haven't had any problems with them. I feel like before, a few years ago, people would have a lot of problems with them, but now I feel like they've gone a lot better, and they're kind of up to par with the rest of the market in terms of discounters. They get a lot of fragrances. But if you're looking for cheap, hard to find, more Arabian fragrances, I would say fragrancebuy.ca is a better option. But these two, FragranceNet and fragrancebuy.ca, are great fragrance discounter websites. And then other ones could be like eBay or Facebook groups. I would recommend with those really double checking your info and making sure it's correct. But I'm sure with fragrancebuy.ca, they're highly reputable and they're a great company. So, you don't have to really worry too much. And same thing goes for fragrancenet.com. And another one I would recommend is jomashop.com or Max Aroma. Those two are also really great. And I don't know if Max Aroma really discounts fragrances as much, but Joma Shop is a great option. It's also a bit new on the block, but it has watches and has fragrance and other, accessories for men and women, and also jewelry as well. So it has a bunch of stuff, but it has a great collection of fragrances for sometimes really heavily discounted prices. And I've bought a few fragrances from them, at least. I know at least I've got a few. And they've been, great, and I've gotten great deals. So I'd highly recommend, buying from discounters. The fourth thing is that people sometimes, starting out, it's very difficult to understand what you like. But I would just recommend starting off with samples. I don't know why, but people sometimes just jump to bottles right away. But I think it's a great idea to use samples to see what you like, to understand what you like better, because your nose also evolves over time. So whatever you may not like, you may like it some other way, some other form. So, for example, I may not like a heavy oud, earthy fragrance, but then you've got Oud Wood from Tom Ford that has a really subtle oud scent. So it's just depending on what you like. There is other ways that fragrances portray a certain note that may smell different from one fragrance to another. So just do your research on what notes come in what fragrance to understand sort of what you like. And websites like Fragrantica and Parfumo.com and Base Notes and all the community fragrance websites are great to understand more about what the fragrance contains. So the fourth mistake is please, start with samples to get an idea of what you like. Don't just jump to bottles right away because you trust one review on it. So just see it for yourself first, understand it, and get a better idea of different fragrances you like. Number 5 is that people think sometimes that eau de toilette doesn't last as long as an eau de parfum or a parfum would. And I would disagree. Sometimes, however, that is the case where, parfum and eau de parfum always last longer than the eau de toilette. But with a fragrance like Dior Sauvage, this is the eau de toilette, and it lasts an extremely long amount of time. It projects an extreme amount. So I wouldn't say that it's really much different than the parfum or the eau de parfum. And actually, the parfum version of Sauvage is actually a bit weaker. It's a bit more subtle. So sometimes you can get that from the parfum versus with an eau de toilette, sometimes you can get a really strong fragrance. And it's not always the case that because of the concentration, that means the fragrance is going to last longer, or it's going to last less, or it's going to be weaker or stronger. That's really up for you to test. As a fragrance, getting into the journey as a fragrance enthusiast, you want to just test things for yourself and see how it is for yourself, because everyone's skin chemistry works different with a fragrance. So I'd highly recommend not relying on the concentration, but rather relying on how it feels on you. So EDT doesn't always mean it's worse. So those are my 5 tips, or my 5 biggest mistakes that people do getting into fragrances. And I hope this video helped to reduce your mistakes, and also just a general, video that you may find helpful. And if you did, let me know, and see you guys later.